And then the main event, I mean, we had a quick night over there doing the commentary. Tim Tszyu comes out, and you know how it is sitting ringside when you know what's about to happen and you just know it. And it's like, I'm not even going to say it. I'm going to just let it work itself out. But he came out. He could see that left hand was low. And he comes over the top with a couple of right hands. And for the second words, that's all she wrote, man. He enjoys fighting. And he has been out to prove himself to not be Kostya Tszyu's son, but to be Tim Tszyu himself. And I love the thing that he does after the fights. Now, this is 2 times I've had a chance to commentate him. After the fight, he says, "What's my effing name?" And everybody yells Tszyu, you know? So you can see what he's after. And I mean, just a fantastic boxer to this point that I've seen now twice. I've seen him mature just in a couple of months, getting back in the ring when he didn't have to. Tell me what you think about Tim Tszyu.
I'm actually really high on this kid. I think he's very, very talented. He's probably the most fundamentally sound Australian I've ever seen. You know, born and raised. Obviously, his father was not born there, but he fought out of Australia. And you know, he's got that gene in him. He's got the Tszyu gene. His father was a legend. But no, I think I'm actually really high on him. I do think that he is a fantastic fighter. I do think that he will be a world champion one day. And listen, I mean, he could be the guy to topple Charlo. I'm not going to predict that right now, but I don't think it's out of the question. You know, I think he's very, very talented. Going off of this fight, I don't think anything of Ocampo. I've seen him fight before. Obviously, Spence blasted him out in 1 round with a body shot. He didn't look classy or clean in this fight. So I don't really think that this fight shines a true light on Tszyu, but he did what he was supposed to do with the man who was in front of him.
There you go.
And that's important.
There you go.
That's important. If he went out there and he went a couple rounds with him, or if it was an ugly fight or whatever, there would be a lot more questions. This one, at least you're like, okay, cool. He's probably got the goods. Let's see how far he can take it. But I'm high on Tim Tszyu. I think he's very talented.
Chris, talk real quick about how he's now done 2 fights in between the mandatory that he has with Charlo. He does not have to get in the ring, and yet he's chosen to do it twice. Speak to us about that. I
think that's very smart. You know, he's surging now. He's got momentum. He's young. He's not taking damage in these fights. Even, you know, his first step up fight with Terrell Gausha. And he gets dropped early, comes back, boxes really well against a very, very good fighter, wins that fight. I think that was a really important step for him to get over that first round knockdown, to beat a name American fighter. His next fight, Tony Harrison. Tony Harrison can really fight, even as an older, not elder. An older, I'm going to say elder because he's such a good boxer, but an older champion. Yeah. The way that he beat him was very, very impressive, and that was his probably toughest opponent to date, and he looked phenomenal. Yeah. Then he gets this guy. I mean, he's staying busy as a young fighter. I talked about the silent killer being inactive. This kid's staying active, and he's being very, very smart about it. He's not wasting any time in the ring. He's getting the work done. He's staying in camp. That's one of the reasons why I feel like his fight with Charlo could be a real challenge. I mean, this guy's had how many camps in a row? That's one thing people don't really think about. They think about, he's staying active and busy in fights. No, he's staying active in camps.
Exactly.
He's rolling camp to camp to camp because he's not getting hurt in these fights. He's going out there doing his job and going right back to work.
And I think that fight a year ago, Charlo and Tszyu, I said, Charlo's got it. Now, I think it's very much so close to 50-50. The fact that Tim has been busy, active, both in the ring and also in training camp, keeping his blood boiling, keeping his mind focused, keeping his mind going. All the while, we got a Jermell Charlo getting stale over here, getting cold over here. We don't know where his focus is at. You know what I mean? So I just think that the momentum has swung highly in the favor of Tim Tszyu, and short of him coming over here and freezing in the moment, or short of him coming over here and just having a bad night, it's a 50-50 fight.
Yeah, I mean, I probably lean a little bit towards Charlo, but I agree with you in everything you're saying. I mean, in terms of the momentum, the way things are going, Tszyu looks like he's a man on a mission. I like what he's been saying after fights now too. Like you said, He said something recently. I don't know if you heard what he said. He said it wasn't even about he's like, I didn't care about the title. He's like, I want to fight Charlo. He's like, I want his name on my record.
He said that. Yep.
I love that.
Yep.
I love that. I want his name on my record.
When he said that the other night after the fight, and when he said it, that solidified it for me in terms of him being ready for Jermell Charlo. Before all the questions were he hasn't fought anybody, what has he done, all this and that. He's getting the right experiences. Take a look at what Regis just said. It's hard fighting at home. He's able to keep all of those outside distractions and all that. He's able to bring it all in and perform at a very high level. And in an environment that's supposed to be hostile for the opponent, it is internally hostile for him because of X amount of reasons that Regis just spoke on. You know what I mean? So again, just want to talk about that real quick. Like, I think that is it's an interesting fight. I think it's a close fight, and I think if that fight happens soon, I'm looking at Tszyu, man. I'm convinced that he's the real deal at 54.
Shawn, do you think that Charlo comes right back to the Tszyu fight, or does he take an interim fight? You know, he's been coming off, I believe he had a hand injury. He's had some out of the ring issues to deal with. Does he come right back to Tszyu, or does he take an interim?
Think about it. Tszyu just fought 3 months ago. How many fighters are fighting every 3 months when they reach that level? Mm-hmm. He doesn't need the money, and I don't put his business out there, but he doesn't need the money. He obviously doesn't need the fights. He's positioned himself to be there. But he's still staying busy and fighting 3 months later because he was told that Jermell Charlo is not going to be ready this summer. He took a chance 3 months later and got back in the ring. If Jermell comes back and he says, I want a tune-up fight, we're looking at that fight happening next year because Jermell's not going to take a fight and then come right back 2 or 3 months later. If Jermell has a fight just like the other night with Carlos Ocampo in the last one round, I can see one or two things happening. Either he says that I didn't get enough out of that one, or he says, all right, I'm ready, let's go. But I think it has to be, I do think that he needs that in-between fight, but I don't think he's going to do it because he's not working with a lot of time now.
I agree. I think he's going to be forced to take that fight immediately. But also you got a hand injury. And I don't know if you've ever hurt your hand before. We all have dealt with it, but listen, you never know with those things. Yeah, taking a fight in between is very risky because even you have an Ocampo, you can hurt your hand on an Ocampo. Yeah, you know, even if it goes one round. Yeah, because that's how hands are. They're finicky. Yeah. So it would probably be smart to go right for it. But I don't know, man. That's a great matchup. I'm excited. That's another fight that I'm excited for. We're having a great year of fights. Hopefully that happens this year.
Absolutely, we are.